And it's Wednesday. That was my song about Wednesday. Hey, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Hope you've been having a wonderful morning so far. I'm going to add this to the comments right now. If you are watching, please feel free to join me on screen. After all, it's a conversation. Let's all talk about everything here. So let's see. It is Wednesday, February 21st. Amazing how fast it's coming along. They always say time moves faster as you get older, and you really start to feel that, as I learned with my 50th birthday, 51st birthday. So it does go quick. Anyway, I hope everybody's having a great morning today. I want to talk about something that's so relatable to everybody because if you're like me, you have already worn coffee on your clothes, just not voluntarily. Um, And there's a company that has decided and actually found a fascinating way to reuse one of the most commonly ingested foods and turn it into one of the most commonly needed things that people have, which is clothing. So now, just to start off with, um, let's see. Let me share a couple bits of interesting information here. So there's two markets that we have all in one here. We have the coffee market. Now, the coffee market itself is over $132 billion. So the coffee market's huge. People drink coffee from everywhere. Now, there are issues with coffee. Hopefully, I'm drinking coffee right now. Hopefully, you're drinking fair trade coffee if you can. Some coffee can be a little treacherous. So that'll be a whole other issue. We'll go over good coffees later on. But the size of the global apparel market in clothing is 1.53 trillion. So you have a $1.53 trillion market for clothing, and you have a $132 billion market of coffee grounds. And by the way, the coffee market is growing rapidly. It's growing at about 5% every year. So there's actually a company, it's a Taiwanese-based company called Synctex, and they created a thing called Escafé, which is a fabric nanotechnology, and it's the first one that creates clothing from coffee. Here we go. Let me show you how this works. It's really fascinating. When I read about it, I was super surprised. Let's see. So, okay, here we go. So, very first of all, this is how they kind of explain what's happening here. You have the coffee grounds. Okay, so you have the coffee beans. Now, what they do is, let me show you this better example. So here we go. Each cup of coffee uses just 0.2% of the grounds. Now, what they do is they take the rest of the grounds, the 0.98%, they extract oil and water from the grounds, transform them into various coffee textiles, sort of like the nanotechnology, almost like the nurdles in plastic. But these are coffee versions, and they're sustainable, and they're totally eco-friendly. Now, this approach creates where they can take those bits and bring them into the textile of fabric. Very much like when we were talking about yesterday, how they can take small elements on a cellular level and create wood and grow it from that. This is the same thing. They can actually extract these bits from what's left over in the grounds. So you're not actually wearing the grounds. We're not actually wearing the coffee. It's a little bit of a marketing thing that they're doing, but I think it's great because if you look at that, there's your cup of coffee, there's your 20-gram coffee grounds, and there we have what is actually in the grounds, and that's in every cup of coffee. So fascinating. It's something we never really think about, but like they say, drink it, wear it. Only now you don't have to do it involuntarily and wear it as a stain, which is my usual thing. So what they do is they take the coffee grounds, they have about 2 or 3 various types of textiles and fabrics they're creating. And this is the Escafé fabric. Now, it's really interesting. They do license their technology, but they're very particular about who they are working with, and do a little bit of research on the company, and it appears that they are really working for innovative technologies. I was reading this takes about 4 or 5 years of research for them to have even created this. So, that, and this is coming from a place, this is coming from Taiwan. Now, what is really important about Taiwan is that about 60 to 70% of the world's organic textiles come from Taiwan. So they have a very vested interest in finding an innovative approach to the future that's more sustainable. And this is what we're seeing. This is a very interesting thing because imagine 60 to 70% of your income in textile comes from sustainable textile. So what do? You race to create the best, most cost-effective, most sustainable textile you can. That's a race towards the top. Here in the States, we base a lot of our clothing off of plastics, which is a race to the bottom because what you're looking for are the most toxic, cheapest versions. And in the end, there's no end-of-life responsibility for the manufacturers of the plastic nurdles, meaning us, the consumers, pay the price, whether it is cleanups, beach cleanups, recycle, which we'll go over that in another live, doesn't even work, and health concerns. Now, to replace something that is a building block of our society, like a plastic, people are working on a lot. But one way we can do this, if the plastics aren't needed for the textiles, for apparel, maybe that will start to cut down on the amount of nurdles and plastics we're using, and we can start to just use these recycled coffee ground bits. Sounds like a win-win to me. And hey, there is one ocean, one planet. Hey, thank you. Really cool. Absolutely. I would love to be able to get some clothing from this. I would love to be able to test it out. And I want to hear what everybody else thinks about the idea of this sort of reuse. We had a long period where everybody was talking about upcycling. And I think it was a great place to begin our mental journey to sustainability, because what we were looking at is how do we take what we already have and make it work for additional uses. Now, we know the biggest problem, and everybody I talk to in conservation already knows, biggest problem is single-use ... whether it's single-use plastic, single-use anything. Everything single-use is a poorly thought out concept. Obviously, there are exceptions in medical. You want single-use things in medical industry, but as a general rule, the use of single-use really disappeared until COVID. And then single use became somewhat mandatory. Then they brought that back. And now we're rethinking. It's almost like before when we had all this single use trash, nobody noticed. And then all of a sudden we reduced it and stopped it. And we lived in a different world. And what our world looked like when we looked around was a lot less trash and plastic and a lot more nature and beauty. And then all of a sudden we went back to single use. And when you drive down the road now, you see the plastics all over the roadside. And nobody wants that. And everybody got a little spoiled remembering how beautiful the world is until we re-entered it and started to use it as a dumpster. So if humans, that is one of our flaws. We'll use our world as our dumpster. If that being the case, then if we start with sustainable, recycle sustainable, end with sustainable, nothing in our process will damage the earth. We'll leave it better than we found it. And that is maybe something we can start working towards. Anyway, this is one of the positive eco-news innovations happening today. Coffee grounds being reused, repurposed, and recreated into a different realm using science. And again, we talk about let's remove all politics from science and let's let science create a better world for our future. Can it? Instead of inventing new Frankensteins, how about if it can just help us heal what we've already done? So two different approaches, but I'm really curious to see what everybody else in the eco world here thinks, and would love to hear your thoughts on this. What would you think? Would you buy clothing knowing it comes from coffee? It supposedly has a few additional elements that are pretty amazing. Evidently, this is so Singtex, the company that does this in Taiwan. They collect 400 kilograms for my American friends. That's close to 900 pounds of coffee waste from Starbucks. So about 900 pounds of coffee grounds from Starbucks. Where else are they going to go? They actually take those and turn those into fabric. So that's a great way of using natural resource that is considered invaluable. Many companies use animals, and that is where we have exploitation issues. If we're able to reuse something sustainable like coffee, nobody gets hurt, as we say. So, they want to use it in fabrics, shoes, luggage. They're trying to get it into soaps and other areas. And they say that aside from just being a good fabric, they're absorbing. They help reduce odor. They have a lot of other aspects. They'll wick off the sweat. So it's actually a fabric that is going to be very helpful. And as we see climate change changing, more versatile outfits are going to be very important, because we're going to go from cold to warm, as we do now, sort of from mornings today. It becomes a little bit of an expected thing. So here we are. We've got this amazing technology. I can't wait to see what everybody has to say about this. And let's look forward to the idea that maybe in the future, we don't have to use plastics. And real quick on clothing, cotton is a wonderful, sustainable. Everybody's going to say, what about cotton? Cotton is a wonderfully sustainable thing. But at the same time, the manufacturing of it and the creation of it has loopholes that are very challenging, whether it's worker exploitation or the way that it is processed. It's not, we still haven't quite got there yet. And I'm sure, as everybody knows, polyester is plastic. The system used to be that America told everybody we recycle plastics. But what they did was sell them to China-based companies who would then, there's very few countries that have the technology, but they can take the recyclables, they can take your Coke plastic, turn it into clothing, call it polyester, and then they sell it back to America. And then America buys a polyester shirt, thinks it's a fabric, and when you're done with your polyester shirt, if you don't donate it, it goes into a landfill. So all that process was doing was slowing down plastics entering our environment. They didn't stop it. So, this is a potential way to disrupt that chain. Now, why is plastic so important? It's a byproduct of the oil and gas industry. So while they run our world, they're also going to try to sell us their toxic waste, aka plastic, and say that it's really good for us. And now it's in everything, the water, the food, everything. One Ocean, One Planet says, we will definitely need to adjust more and more extreme weather on the regular. Absolutely. And we do see this in the field. We see this everywhere, whether you're on the equator, far from the equator, you are going to experience some kind of crazy drastic thing. So anyway, coffee clothing, let me know what you think. And thank you for joining today. It was really wonderful. Every day, we're going to just be doing chats about some kind of positive eco story that we can all talk about, and encourage everybody to come join me. We'll always have links on here. Come join in, and we'll be able to all talk about it. And let's take a look at what kind of positive solutions we have for the world now and in the future. All right. Have a great Wednesday.